Our Minecraft world seemed empty, with big areas being left disconnected from each other. So I started the Trail Project. They were made as a means for the traveler to be able to traverse the lawless terrain and to avoid any run-ins with pillagers. These trails connect several cities together in our Minecraft world, and it's all leading to the Spire, a naturally generated peak in our Minecraft world, which I plan to turn into a large center of travel. Alright, but first of all, I realize it's been a long time since I've recorded and made videos, so I'm going to give you guys a bit of an update on what I've been up to. Alright, first of all, I planned all this land to be able to expand our world further this way, because, you know, this is the Fred Mountains village, and it doesn't look like much of a village so far, so we're going to be building a lot of buildings around here. I also updated the theater area back here, made some chairs. Like I said, flattened this out. You know, there used to be this little forest here, coniferous forest that I took out. Added this tree line just to separate our property from the Fred Mountains area even further. And then we have this little area coming along right here. This is starting to look a bit like a village, because I made this plaza around here where these buildings were. Turned out great. And then Ultrathena, or Livy, or whatever she wants to be called anymore, made this really cool area over here with all these houses. It's turning out nice as well. And then I made this road. This road is the start of the trail project, but we'll get back to that in a minute. I also did some work up here. This used to be the ugliest little airport, and it didn't really fit with the lore of our world, because our world's supposed to be like late 1800s, early 1900s, and of course there were planes in the early 1900s, but the planes that we had out here were like fighter jets, like I had an F-18. It didn't really fit, so I just kind of took those down and had a helicopter launch pad, which again doesn't make much sense. But then I just made Easter eggs like plane parts. This was the old seaplane that used to be here, and the old biplane had a little crash here. You can see it's overgrown, but the saloon is still here and even a little bit updated, not too much. We're eventually going to get a villager out here as the bartender, but yeah, just a nice little biome that I built. Looks a lot better. You walk along this path, and then there's this little custom stream that I built going all the way over the edge of the cliff there. Made some custom boulders everywhere. I think it looks pretty nice. And then you come up to this bridge, which I am ridiculously proud of, even though it's not that impressive. Little builds like this just tie the world together so well. Back here is where I'm going to make a logging site, I think. I think this would be it would fit well around here. Make like an 1800s style logging site with, like, you know, horses pulling logs and stuff. Very minimal machinery they had to work with back then. But I won't keep you any longer away from the thing which you have been waiting for, which is the trail project. It starts in this plaza and goes this way. The stone path goes through this village, but it doesn't go. The entire path isn't obviously stone. That would take way too much work. Just this small path right here took, like, let's say an hour and 45 minutes, and there's a stupid villager stuck over there. I'll deal with him later. So you go through here, which was originally the cemetery gate, but we're thinking we just make it the Fred Mountains gate, because it'd be kind of disturbing. You have to walk through the cemetery to get where you want to go, so this might just say, like, welcome to the Fred Mountains Valley or whatever. And then this is where the main trail starts, but I would like to show you something which I did just recently. So if you didn't know, our property used to include this chunk right here, this big strip with, like, the fairy garden and everything. However, that doesn't make too much sense, because the Fred and George Mountains are in a time of peace with each other. This all used to be this is technically all the Fred Mountains Valley. This all used to be the Fred Mountains community property, but obviously we built our house there, so that's our property. And that made a problem where the Fred and the George Mountains had no way of communication, because now they've made peace with each other. So I had to retire this little section of our property to the George Mountains, And obviously now there's this path that goes through this little mountain pass to get to the Fred Mountains, which I think looks works pretty nicely. And then boom, you're in the Fred Mountains community. We're thinking about naming these towns. I want this to be like Fredericksburg or Frederickshire or something. I don't know, probably Fredericksburg because it's a town. Then yeah, this path goes quite a ways back here through this forest. Right here it breaks off in two different directions. One of them goes to this like apartment building back here. And in the other direction you can just kind of keep going all the way to this village here, which is kind of the first stop. This trail keeps going, wrapping around this mountain. The first bridge of this trail, it's kind of a covered bridge, but not really. Technically covered bridges don't have these pillars down here to support it, but it looked like an 8-year-old made it if I didn't put those down there. So I decided to put them down there anyway. But yeah, I think it looks pretty nice regardless of it not being 100% accurate. And that connects to this other village right here, which I visit sometimes, not too often, not too much to see back here. Then the trail keeps going out of the village, through this little swampy area, and then already you can see the spire up there in the distance. The two spires, which I'm gonna make into kind of like a national park. In our world, we have the Elytra Outpost, which has been turned into an inn. Before they invented fireworks as a mean of fuel for Elytra, they were basically, Elytra were only good for gliding instead of actually flying like we can now. So back then they had to have different high places to be able to fly and glide away from. So that's what I'm going to turn this into, is I'm going to make a bunch of ladders and stairs and stuff, scaling this. Nowadays it's just a tourist attraction because we obviously have firework rockets now. But back then, this was how people got all the way to the Fred Mountains. And you can get all the way to the Fred Mountains easily from here. It's a pretty good position to be able to get to different places. I bet you could even, if you really wanted to, you could get all the way to the George Mountains. What we are going to be doing in today's episode is we're just going to start building little things to make the trail complete. That's what the series is going to be. I'm going to build cool things along the trail to make it actually more lived in, because paths in and of themselves make the Minecraft world feel a lot more lived in. Also, to a point, you kind of need things like maybe wagons going along them, and maybe just cool builds along the side of it, you know, campsites and stuff, you know, signs pointing to which way goes to which village and stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. This is going to be a long-term project. I may start other series in between this because I don't know how well this will do as far as getting interest. I'd say the first thing that I want to do is to make a sign here pointing out all the different directions you can go, because this way goes ultimately to the spire, this way goes straight to the Fred Mountains, and this one goes to whatever we're gonna name that area. Alright, a long time later, but I got a lot of work done. First of all, I made these signs that point to different areas like Georgetown, which is just its current name until we come up with a better one, and then Newtown again until we come up with a better name. I decided to name it Fredericksburg. That sounds like a good name for that area. Elytra Outpost, Historical Inn, Dolores Restaurant, Food and Drink, the Spire in that direction. Just some basic stuff like that. And then at this natural fork in the path of travel, we have a business set up here by our wandering trader. So he set up a booth here and has different trades in here. Obviously his trades in here look a lot better than his trades that he brings around with him. He's not in the shop right now. He's somewhere else off trying to scam some people out of their emeralds. Looks like Roof has seen some better days. It's starting to lean in from water damage, but still pretty cool. And you're going along the path in here and you come across this little campsite that I made. Someone set up camp here. Again, they're not here right now, but you go in this tent, which you have to crouch to get into. Kind of a nice detail that I like. There's a bed, a chest, some barrels, basically everything you need to survive. And then they've got a clothesline over here and a fire, everything. I have a hay bale under there so smoke goes high up in the air. And they've got a little wagon set up. So this is how they, I guess, take camp with them everywhere. They just take this and wander around the world with it. There's also some signs here that says, exiting Fred Mountains Valley, proceed with caution. And then here it says, welcome to Fredericksburg as you're walking into the town. And of course I have a sign here welcoming you to Georgetown. And then last but far from least we have the fire tower. as you can see is indicated by this sign here. What a fire tower is back then in like the 30s, I believe. They built these fire towers all over America to be able to warn people if there's a fire, to be able to get the fire department if there were forest fires or whatever, so they were made around the country. Now, of course, our world takes place in like the 1890s through 1910s, so this is a bit of a stretch in the imagination, but yeah, this looks older. This isn't made out of like the metal material that those were all made out of. This is made out of wood. So you climb up the tower, and at the top you have different signs that indicate the different directions, and you just have a spectacular view. This is definitely one of the best views in our entire world. You can see a village here, you can see the airport, or the former airport there, and if they ever saw a fire around here, they would alert by setting off a firework, and then the Fred Mountains would send one of their fire brigades over here and ask where they saw the fire, and then they could say it was north or west or northwest or wherever the fire would have been. And as a bonus clip, here's a video of me climbing up a fire tower in real life, which I am kind of scared of heights, so this is a bit of a push for me, but I'm glad I did it. Two interesting facts about this. A, it was apparently built in the 1930s, and B, it overlooks the highest ridge in southern Indiana, which was what I apparently just climbed. Alright, I'm up here at the top. As you can see, unfortunately, can't go in there, it's all boarded up. Oh, this is high. This is really, really high up here. It seems a lot higher in real life than it does in this video. Again, trust me, but oh boy, this is not in my comfort zone. Like I said, I'm not the best with heights, but it sure is pretty up here. Imagine climbing up here every morning for work. What a crazy job. That was definitely scary for me, but I'm glad I did that. You need to be adventurous to have fun and do stuff that you'll remember. But yeah, this is definitely sketchy, especially when you can hear the whole thing creaking and all that. I don't like that. You can feel the thing bouncing after you take a little step. The whole thing kind of moves a little bit. That's sketchy. Well, I made it up and I made it back down, so there's something off the checklist of things I've always wanted to do. But as the sun is setting over our beautiful Minecraft world, I'm going to answer our first comment question of the day from HotBrick7053 YouTube. Where do you get inspirations for your builds? That's actually a very interesting question, because that's something that almost every Let's Player is asked, and I never really like their answers because they don't really give a straight answer. But then when I'm asked the question, I realize my answer is about the same as theirs, which is, to a point, they just kind of come to me by walking around the world until I get ideas. I definitely draw inspirations from other video games. A lot of this trail project was inspired by the Hogwarts Legacy game. I really like the trails going around in that game. For example, I remembered the Hogsmeade sign, and I just thought that'd be a great thing to build in here, so I kind of based off of that. And then I remembered all those little shops that they have around in Hogwarts Legacy, so I decided to build this as well. Then obviously it helps to draw inspiration from real life, like I did with this build. I would say the one piece of advice that I would give that a lot of people overlook is to pick a time period for your world. That will really help tie everything together. And I used to be terrible at that, and I went and fixed it. I took down the airport that did not fit, and obviously a few quirky details like a little cat house over here aren't gonna ruin your world. We don't have the heart to take this thing down, but yeah, things like that don't necessarily hurt every now and then, but just kind of stick with a central theme, and I think that'll work best. Alright, but if you have a comment or question, I'd love to see it down in the comments below, and you might get it answered on video. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one where we continue on this trail project.